Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and stay tuned by clicking the bell icon. Faced with the emotional torment of adolescence, Heartstopper brings light and color to difficult subjects. The graphic novel by the writer and cartoonist Alice Oseman is a boom among the youngest. Also a writer for the series, which premiered its second season on Netflix, the British talks about the challenges of sustaining a cult phenomenon. Faced with the drama and constant emotional torment with which other series reflect adolescence, Heartstopper chooses light and color. Faced with the inconsequential romance of many youth productions, Heartstopper opts for vindication and mental health treatment. The Netflix series might seem like just another high school story, but it has chosen to be different. It's a celebration of diversity. It doesn't just tell the story of the romantic relationship between a gay boy and a bisexual boy who has just discovered his sexual orientation. In his circle of friends, there is a lesbian couple and another of a trans girl, and a cisgender boy with his romantic back and forth. Things are not easy for any of them. Added to the dramas of adolescence is the complexity of a world that does not always welcome them in the best way. But Heartstopper chooses for his characters to live in a world of color and optimism. That yes, without hiding that they coexist with the darkness. The second season, recently released on Netflix, makes the latter clear. The on-screen love story of Charlie and Nick is the translation of the comic written and drawn by Alice Oseman, Chatham, United Kingdom, 28 years old. Stories about LGBT characters and stories that explore trauma and have a more mature, adult tone are very important, and I like to see them, but at the same time, we need stories that are lighthearted and accessible to younger audiences. In the end, what is needed is for there to be a variety of queer series, the British told El País. In a video call interview on August 2, the writer, also a scriptwriter for the series, explains the complexities of facing a second season of a title that became a cult phenomenon with its first installment. Writing the second part of whatever, a sequel, a new music album, whatever is more difficult. There is a lot of pressure from the fans. The most difficult thing has been creating the plots that are not in the comics. The story at its core stays very close to the books, but that leaves me a lot of room where other things need to happen, especially where the supporting characters are concerned. I had to create a lot of plots and expand the ones that were already there and make everything fit with what's already in the comics. Heartstopper goes beyond the central love story and the relationships that arise around it. That becomes clearer in a second season that, traveling to Paris through and with Nick's progressive, coming out of the closet as a backdrop, delves into the mental health problems of his characters, as well as their insecurities and doubts. For example, Nick is increasingly concerned about disordered eating and the aftermath of bullying. That your boyfriend suffered in the past. Mental health was one of the core issues that Alice Oseman wanted to address in her stories, as well as celebrate the joy of love of any kind. This is a story about mental health, and you start to see that especially in the second season. There were already clues in the first one, but now we face it directly. Nick and Charlie have to learn and understand each other better to know how to deal with each other's mental health. We started that journey in the second season, and it will be a fundamental element of the third as well, advances the writer, who sees it as a challenge to combine the luminosity of her series with darker matters. Born in 2016 as an internet comic, Heartstopper's success has surpassed its author. The web edition grew in popularity, after which it jumped to the paper version, and from there, to the screen with Netflix. At first, it was literally just something I did for fun. Now it's my full-time job, the only thing I've worked on in the last few years, and probably the only thing I'll do for the next 2 years. It has totally changed my life, says Oseman. When asked about the possible reasons for the success of her story, she points to several reasons. But one above all, people want happy stories. That is demonstrated by other series, such as Lost Bridgertons or Sex Education. People want this type of content, especially in times like the present. I also think that Heartstopper, although it is made with teenagers in mind, also appeals to people of other ages. I really think we've done a good adaptation of the books, something that doesn't always happen. Adaptations are very difficult because there are so many expectations, and it's hard to capture on screen what's in the books, but we've done it. For this, it was key to have a good cast. Achieving it was not easy, according to Oseman explains. I had a very clear idea of those characters and how they should be. We had to take different factors into account, that they looked like the cartoons, that they were a similar age. The actors who were Nick and Charlie had to have chemistry between them. In a casting process that the writer describes as intense and almost a nightmare, they found who she considers the perfect person for each role. We only had one actor for each character, there were no alternative options, because it was extremely difficult to find each one. Out of that process came Joe Locke and Kit Connor as Charlie and Nick. What surprised me the most about them was their emotional intelligence, and that they are not afraid to push the emotional scenes to the limit and dive into the feelings of Charlie and Nick. It's a teen romance, and it could easily be corny and silly in the hands of the wrong actors. But in Kit and Joe, you can tell how serious they take it, and how much they love the characters. Now that Heartstopper is a global phenomenon, the attention his comic receives has multiplied, as has the fan phenomenon surrounding his creation, which has led Osman to distance himself from the reactions on the internet. Luckily, Heartstopper fans are great, but there are always some unsavory characters. You have to learn to take a step back, which for me has been difficult because I had a very close connection with the fans. When it was a small thing, I could talk to readers many times, reply to their comments, and read all the messages. Now that is impossible, and it would be very bad for my mental health if I did. Osman speaks calmly and with a constant smile, an attitude that suits his creation well. She already knows how Heartstopper will end, whose television version is renewed for a third season, and whose comics will have a new volume, the 5th, published in December, and another in perspective, the 6th. I've thought about the ending, yes, and I know how Nick and Charlie's story will end, but for the other characters I don't know yet, we'll see. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, and share.